Hello, welcome back to Patristic Nectar Kids. I'm Kriya Destiny of Ascetic Life of Motherhood. Now today we're going to be learning about Saint Lucia, sometimes Santa Lucia or Saint Lucy. Have you ever heard of her? Well, she's a very special saint. On her feast day, there's a couple of special traditions that we can do that you might be interested in as well. So today we're going to take you along as we make Saint Lucia buns, and we're going to show you the different ways that you can dress up on Saint Lucia Day. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her life and how that connects to these traditions. So I hope you'll stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun. Saint Lucia, I learned about her several years ago. At our church, on her feast day, we had a special Lucia procession. So the young girls in the church would dress up in all white, have a red sash and a crown on their head, and they would walk with candles through the church, and the boys would follow them holding a star. And so the first time I saw this, I was captivated by it. It was beautiful. And I thought, where does this tradition come from? I want to learn more. And at the time, my little daughter was just a baby. And so having now two girls, we have really embraced Saint Lucia because, I don't know if you know this, but Saint Lucia was a young girl when she was martyred, okay? When she was killed for her faith. So she is somebody that we can really look to as a beautiful example of her love for God and how she gave up everything for Jesus. I want to tell you more about Saint Lucia's life, and as I tell you the story, I'm just going to start baking our Saint Lucia buns. We've got to get it a little bit prepped because it takes a few hours. So as we're getting prepped for that, let's talk about Saint Lucia and her life. So Saint Lucia was born in the 3rd century, and her parents were Christians, and they were from a noble family, which means they had a pretty good amount of money and status, okay? And her father died when she was young, but Saint Lucia's mother raised her as a Christian. This was a time, however, when it was illegal to be a Christian, which meant you would either be put in jail or killed because you were a Christian. So for many, many years, because of their wealth and status, Saint Lucia was not noticed by the authorities. So she used her time to take care of those Christians who were hiding in the catacombs. And one of the stories is that when she was bringing baked goods and food to the people that were hiding in the catacombs, she was wearing a crown of candles on her head so that her hands would be freed up to bring the food to the catacombs. She was betrothed to a man to be married, but she did not want to get married. She wanted to be the bride of Christ. She only wanted to be with Christ, and she did not want to get married. But her mother had already betrothed her to a young man. Well, after a miracle occurred and her mother was healed, she begged her mother and said, "Please, mother, please don't make me marry this boy. I want to be married to Christ, my bridegroom." And so her mother agreed. And so secretly, Saint Lucia took her dowry, which I don't know if you remember that word from our last video. The dowry is a large sum of money that's given to the groom's family when you get married. So instead of giving it to him, she took the money, she gave it away to the poor. Well, her fiance, who she was betrothed to, found out about this, and he was very upset because he said, "That was my money." And so he turned her into the authorities and told them she's a Christian. And so they brought Lucia and they arrested her, and they tried to make her sacrifice to the idols, but she refused. And they said, "Well, we're going to then kill you right here." So they made a big fire and tried to burn her alive. But guess what? The fire didn't even touch her. So then they tried to drag her away, and she was immovable. The Holy Spirit had made her so heavy that she couldn't even move. So eventually they took a sword to her neck and she gave up her spirit. That was the only way they could kill her. But in that moment, she gave up her spirit and became the bride of Christ. That was a little bit of an intense story. But we learned something from Saint Lucia, that she was brave and she never gave up Christ, no matter what the consequences were. And because of that, she is with him forever and does his work. On her feast day every year, people come together and they make these special buns that we're showing you. And the reason for that is many years later, there was a great famine in Sweden and the people were dying because they had no food, and it was the darkest, harshest winter. Well, one evening, there was a young maiden on a ship coming into the port, and it almost looked as if she was glowing. And inside her ship were sacks full of flour. And she came on shore, and the people unloaded the ship, and they were saved from the famine. They had flour to make baked goods and food. And so now every year on their feast day, Saint Lucia's feast day, they make Saint Lucia buns to remember how she saved Sweden from this famine. And now they take the wheat and they share it with others. And so that's how this tradition came about. Now, a few things about these buns. You'll notice that they have a yellow color in it. That's because they bake it with a really special spice called saffron. And it's a really unique spice. And when you add it to the bun, the buns, it makes a very fragrant smell. It's very unique and very tasty. And so these buns are then formed in the shape of an S. You see that? So why are they in this shape? Well, as I told you in the story, Saint Lucia was known for her light-filled eyes. Some people would even say that it looked like they were glowing because of her love for God. And so we make these buns in this shape, and we put either a raisin or a chocolate chip, or we put craisins in ours, and we put them there to represent Saint Lucia's eyes. Some people will even make them into a cross shape. They'll take two S's and we'll make them into a cross. So there's a couple ways you can do that. And you're supposed to take these buns and share them with others on her feast day. Tell them about Saint Lucia. Another sweet tradition. Using these buns, in Sweden, young girls will dress up like Saint Lucia on her feast day. And the oldest Lucia in the family, the oldest girl, will be the Lucia bride. And she is supposed to make these buns for the family, and she serves them with coffee to her parents. So that's another really fun tradition you can do on her feast day. So let's talk a little bit more about the Saint Lucia outfit. I mentioned that the Saint Lucia girls will wear a white dress, which represents her purity. Okay? Then they'll add a red sash, which represents her martyrdom. Then they'll usually wear a crown on their head, maybe some greenery. And this is to remind us that she was a martyr for Christ. She received the heavenly crown that martyrs receive. But also, like the story I told you, she would wear a crown of candles on her head in order to serve those in need, to free up her hands, okay? And then she holds a candle as well to remind us that we are the light of the world, just like Saint Lucia was a light in darkness, okay? So that's what the Lucia bride. So now we have our Saint Lucia buns all done and cooled down and ready to share. We're dressed up like Saint Lucia, and we're going to do a little procession around our house singing the Saint Lucia song, which I will link below if you want to listen to it as well. So we learn this song every year and we sing it while we process. And the oldest will take the Lucia buns and distribute them to the people in our household. Or in our case, sometimes we'll also do them at church. There's a lot of fun traditions, and it reminds us of the beautiful martyrdom and faith of Saint Lucia. So thank you so much for learning alongside us as we talk about Saint Lucia and all the traditions that we do on Saint Lucia's Day. I hope you have a wonderful feast day. Don't forget to subscribe to Patristic Nectar Kids, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of Nativity Fast. Bye-bye.